Hello family, welcome back to Carolliving. Today I'm going to talk about a travel experience that I had recently, and I happen to be a part of a group of people traveling to Naivasha, Kenya for a purpose of a venue trip to a conference that we are preparing for. So basically it was about 15 of us, and we are organizing as a part of a Rotary fraternity program. It's an annual program, and it happens once every year. We get to congregate in a conference called a district conference. However, I was just lucky to be a part of the organizing committee, and most importantly, to be a part of those that get to travel, because not everyone has the time or the chance. So I was just excited to do the first trip. Anyone who has never traveled to Nairobi, like, everyone says, Nairobi, Kenya, go through Kenya. I had never gone that route, except I had, I think, reached in Kisumu. So it was a very, very good opportunity to experience what that journey looks like on the road. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about our journey from start. We started at about 6 a.m. in organized transport. We were in vans, and then we went to the border via Busia, cleared out there, and then traveled through Kisumu, through the different towns that are en route that road. But I just remember, particularly the tea estates in Kericho area. I remember Nakuru, and then of course into Naivasha. There are very many small towns along there that honestly I did not keep capturing names, but it was interesting to just see how another part of our African continent looks like, particularly our neighbors in the East African community. So what was my highlight of the journey? I'm just going to talk about just the journey. Uganda side, definitely you notice that in the Uganda side we're used to what it is. It's a tropical environment, it's lots of green, lots of foliage. Like when you're traveling, it's so much nature all through, and it's overgrown nature. However, as you cross, you notice that the vegetation does not just, it's not like, it stays green, yes, but it's a different kind. It's a different kind of green. And I realized that we are in our world, but whereas we're in Africa, even in the tropics, but there are different vegetations in different parts. So for me, my highlight was that the vegetation as you reach Kenya starts changing. And because for them it's a large expanse of land. I mean, Kenya is like 3 of Uganda, I don't know. But it's about that. The geography, in the geography, the area is much wider. So we kept seeing different vegetation along the journey, and varying tonal, like they are shaded differently. And because we were traveling throughout the day, over an 8-hour journey, we got to travel, see how the morning times look like, the vegetation looks like in the morning, how it looks like that by midday, 3 o'clock, all the way to the sunset. It was a beautiful trip, honestly. Whoever is in love with nature definitely would know this would be a journey for you to go to. We arrived in Kisumu about lunch hour. We had lunch, of course. We congregated in a place that had already been organized. We had lunch with everyone, just a breather, and then we continued on the trip. And then we went from one town to another, from Kisumu. It's amazing, one town to another. One of the other highlights that I noticed that Kenya, the roads, whereas they are wide and it's like a highway on the road we're taking, it's a highway, but people build so far away from the road, and it's nice to see. Like they build so far away from the road, and I believe that there's a discipline that has been inculcated in the communities, not to. It could be structural, it could be intentional, implemented by the governments, but there's a discipline that has been inculcated in the people to just build away from the road. The towns are a mix of modern and traditional buildings. Honestly, I feel like some parts were like, okay, this is a modern town, but some other parts were like, this feels like back in time, like the little kiosks, the traditional markets, the houses that look like were built 100 years ago. It was a mix of experiences to see. However, I noticed in one thing when I reached the tea estate, that was a beautiful landscape to behold. The tea estate is like a factory area for the tea, for the Kericho tea. I think now that when we look at it on the shelves in the supermarkets, we can almost, at least I can almost understand where it comes from. It was very beautiful, like they are on hills. Like you notice that the tea is just arranged on the hills. You notice that there is a settlement where I think the tea the tea workers live. You notice that it's like a small little settlement in the tea itself. You notice that very clearly, and of course you notice that far off you notice the factories. You notice the different activities taking place on the tea estate. And then as you go further, you notice the landscape starts to change into, like, maybe I can call it the savanna, the landscape, the greenery that supports the wildlife. You pass through a lot of parks noticeably. So as you get out of Kericho and head towards Nakuru, notice that there's so much green, lots of forested land, hills, but even you notice that the hills can be like different. This part has a different green, like when you go maybe into the valley, and the other parts, if you view it from afar, they also have a different color of green. And then you're thinking, well, how come? Well, that was it. Of course, it was also enhanced by the sun, the movement of the sun as the day was progressing. So I can't say the color was just the nature, but however also the tonal variations were enhanced by the sun as we're going from, like, maybe throughout midday to the sunset. So I noticed it was a beautiful, beautiful landscape. I cannot even overstate it. It's so beautiful. And I would say anyone who has the chance, please, you can travel. As we're reaching sunset, we were heading towards, I think towards Nakuru. That's where the sunset got us. And it was a beautiful countryside to behold. It was all like orange, you know, the sunset. All orange and just still expanse of land. Still settlements along the way, little trading centers, different activities. I noticed that along as you travel, some parts you'll find that it's a farming community, other parts it's a factory community, and other parts subsistence, but other parts also really like commercial farms. I noticed that there's so many commercial farms in Kenya. Anyone who wants to benchmark via farming, I think Kenya is a good place. There were lots of commercial farms. You notice that they're established and they are a real entity. It's noticeable, it's very outstanding. And I'm thinking, I had like an idea, next time I should just go visit those, at least maybe 1 or 2 farms. Yeah, our conference that is coming up very soon has organized some trips to some of the farms, particularly in Naivasha. So I know we'll be able to like see some of those farms and possibly benchmark and dream and just be able to see that view from the other side. Naivasha, when we arrived a little bit late, but it was nice to see the constructions. I liked one particular feature on their houses, the block, the block that has been cut out of rock. Like, it's carved out properly and then just used for building. It provides the facade, like you don't need to do any more fascias on the buildings. It provides a clear, rough, but also earthy facade. I like that feature about the buildings that I saw most, especially in our destination in Naivasha. Most of the buildings were built with that particular block on the exterior facade. Inside it was a variation. Inside it was a variation, and you notice that yes, parts of it are like plaster, finished matte and smooth ones, but other parts were just like, even they would leave, like especially in the hallways, they would also leave the rock block surface just going through. The journey was so interesting. So much flora to see, fauna. I sound like a geographer, I know, but those I can just pronounce them that way because I don't want to say I saw so many animals, but there was a lot to see, both the plant life, animal life, the communities that live there. Of course, Swahili was spoken. It's the most predominantly spoken. Those of us have to at least get a few words in the dialect. It was nice to see. It was a great experience, and I would encourage the Carolliving farm to consider, if you're an adventure, a potential adventurer, you know, like how you say, what are your hobbies? I like to travel, and then you're like, where have you traveled? And then you're like, okay, not yet anywhere far. So I just kind of challenge you. You can take the Kenyan trip. There, I found out that their cost of transport is not it's very affordable. Anyone can actually take a trip, and because we're in the East African community, it's easy to clear on the border. With just a national ID, you can clear around, but it's also good to have a passport if you intend to use like the flights and all. So it was great, and it's just I just felt I need to share this experience and challenge you to maybe add some flavor in your life. We are dreaming in color this year, so parts of the flavor is to just experience things that you have not experienced, especially if you love, if you dream to travel like some of us. Thank you so much for listening, and watch out for our next videos. It is going to be about now the actual experience in Naivasha. We will talk about the animal life, we'll talk about Lake Naivasha, we'll talk about the various interiors that were inspiring to see, and we'll also just talk about the generics. Honestly, I'm just going to be, it's not going to be like it's not going to be like so organized. The generics, what I saw, I'm just sharing my experience. So I just want to challenge you. Thank you so much for watching, and keep on our channel, subscribe, and just enjoy the few videos you're going to do about the travel experience.